Greetings, everyone. It's IT2. Today I got something a little different for you guys. I mentioned the other day, Tina Gilmore from the Gilmore Saga. Her son apparently found the Gilmore Saga and watched it, and he thought I was his dad for a while, that's interesting to think about, like an 18-year-old. I made that video like 19 years ago or something, and now her kid is like starting college, and then you find a video online of like your mom getting banged. He probably thinks I'm a motherfucker, which technically is true, which is fine. But I'd forgotten that like after the whole Gilmore Saga, I got fired like a week after we made Sweet Love. I saw her again like 6 months later, and she wasn't pregnant. And then I think I saw her like a few weeks or a month after that at this other place she was living at with these people that showed up, and then one of them had a wreck, and it was all this weird situation. So she wasn't pregnant then, so obviously it couldn't have been my kid. So I just thought it was funny because when she finally did have this son of hers, he turned out to be this super genius. He was like skipping grades, which would make sense if it was my kid because I'm so smart. But it got me thinking about like what all kind of wisdom do I have to pass down. And so I started making a list of things that I wanted. If I had a son, what I would tell him. So he can take this advice or not. We were going to get on Discord and talk, but they haven't talked to him and his girlfriend from college. I guess they were going to message me on Discord, but I haven't heard from him since I was working all weekend. But advice. First, I want to start out with some advice that I learned from my dad. Just a couple of things. One thing, I remember we were like, when I was like 5 or whatever, we grew up poor. We lived in a trailer, and we had a wood burning stove back then. And we'd get like piles of wood, like blocks, and I was getting wood for the stove, and like the closest wood was at the bottom, so I was picking up off the bottom, and then all the top wood would fall because you've what do you call it? Jeopardized the support structure. I'm sure there's a fancier word. But anyway, he told me plan ahead. Always plan ahead. Like, don't take the easiest path, I guess is what he was trying to say there. And you gotta like think of the future whenever you make decisions. And then it kind of goes into another thing he told me about was like never burn bridges. Especially like if you're quitting a job, don't piss off the people because you may have to go back there someday. Although, man, burning bridges is one of the main things I enjoy about life. If I can just really like stick it to somebody when I'm quitting a job or like somebody pisses me off, just like I love burning a bridge. But I guess it's always better to not burn bridges. And he also told me, I just remembered this about using a chainsaw when you're cutting wood. If you go too fast, it'll jam up on you. If you go too slow, it'll like kick back on you. So you gotta like go a good, constant, certain speed. That's true about a lot of things in life, not just chainsaws. You gotta use a certain right amount of speed to things. You don't want to rush things. You don't want to go too slow with things. That could be said about relationships. It could be said about driving a car. A lot of ways that can be taken. And there's one thing that I learned later in life. I wish I knew about this earlier. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's something everybody should learn. They should teach us in school about when you're getting a house, when you're buying your first house. This is the graph of the mortgage, your interest versus your principal. So it starts out in the beginning. The bank has to get their money first, so you're mostly paying interest, and you're hardly paying anything on your actual loan. You're paying like just barely a little bit of principal. And then over time, you'll get this tipping point, is what they call it. That's where they meet, and then you start paying more, or more principal and less interest. But the bank, since they're giving you money to buy a house, they want to get paid first. So if you get a loan for a house that's like $150,000, $200,000, you're probably going to get the whole thing is going to be like $400,000. You're going to pay like double, whatever it is, pretty much. And that's how they get you. Anyway, that's just something there's all kinds of things about like budgeting and stuff. I mean, you can kind of figure stuff like that out on your own. You're smart. I can get into some relationship advice. This is going to be kind of controversial. I've discovered there's 3 types of women. I mean, there's also this video called the Hot and Crazy Chart. You can look that up. But there's 3 types of women. There's whores, and there's sluts, and then there's prudes. Now, most people would say the prudes are good because they're not sleeping around, and whores and sluts are bad. Not really true. Sluts are great. Let me explain this. It's going to sound weird. A whore is somebody that has sex for their own ill-gotten reasons, or like bad reasons, like they're getting into it for money. They're looking for a guy that has power. They're doing it for like status. They're chasing clout. They're doing all kinds of like bullshit, like modifying their selves, or like wearing a lot of makeup, and it's just a bunch of horse shit. Not horse shit, whore shit. It's like people that make porn are whores. Now, your mom's a slut. Now, I'm not saying that in a bad way. But your mom is what we call... The sluts are the good ones. You want a girl that's a slut. Because a slut is like a man. She has sex for the love of the game. Because she enjoys doing it. And there are a lot of sluts that are maybe not slutty, but they're probably harder to get them to put out, which is fine. But then you got prudes. But prudes never sleep with anybody. Unless they're married, or it's like they have all these weird religious stuff, like baggage, because they believe in weird fairy tales that they can't prove. And then they end up... Oh, they're also kind of prudes that are like... They like sex, like when you're dating them, and then when you marry them, and you have a kid or two, and then they just quit. It's like, they say you could take a jar, and you put an M&M into it, or a marble, or whatever. Your first year together, every time you have sex, and then when you get married, you take a marble out, and you'll never take all of the marbles out, because it's like a drop-off. Again, if I had a graph for that. But you got to find a well-balanced slut that likes sex for the right reasons, and they're not into it for anything else other than that. Maybe if they want to have sex because they want to have a kid, that's not really a bad reason. Like, they're not a whore in that case. But if you're doing it because they like it, it's like everybody has like this balance between testosterone and estrogen. Even men have estrogen and women have testosterone. It's just like somewhere along that curve, you get women that are have a little bit more testosterone, and they want to sleep with people like men want to sleep with people. Are there whore men, man whores? I guess there could be. There's not really any men prudes. You have some asexuals like Steve or whatever, but like maybe religious people. Then you get, I don't know. Just something to think about. I'm sure there's other ways you can categorize women besides their sexual preferences too. And there's also things you can look for, like red flags if you're dating somebody. There's things you can do, like the door test. If you open the door for a woman, and if she leans over and opens your door for you as you're getting in, that's supposed to be a thing. There's a thing about... I think it's a thing. If you see a woman it's on TikTok, and she has crazy long fingernails, and she points a lot. Any woman that like points when she's telling you things, and she starts doing this thing, any woman that does this, stay the fuck away from her. Especially if they're putting their hand near the camera and they're pointing at it and they have long fingernails. Watch out for people that spend a lot of money on like their hair and their long fingernails and trying to get their ass big. That's bad. Here's a tip I wrote down. Never trust women. They can ruin your life with one little lie. There's like a Me Too movement, like believe all women crap. It's like, there's no way, if a woman says that you raped them, you're just fucked. There's nothing you can do. Nobody's going to test it. They're just going to believe them. You can do 10, 20 years in prison just because a woman decides she don't like you anymore. That's why I don't mess with women. Or men. I just stay out of the game. I'm out of the game. Here's a tip. Learn what a girl's mom looks like to see what they will look like when they get older. If you plan on sleeping with a woman into like her 40s and 50s, especially, it's probably a good idea to check out her mom. I think that's all the women tips I had. I don't really know that much about women since I've never actually had a girlfriend myself. But, yeah. Then I got, beer is empty calories. I didn't start drinking till last year, and I discovered that beer is a waste of time. It tastes bad and it doesn't get you drunk. But what it does have is a lot of calories. So you can get beer bellies and you can get real fat drinking beer. If you want to drink beer, I would suggest rum. Rum's my drink of choice. Whiskey has turned out really bad. Coconut rum, Captain Morgan's is really good, but you get a headache. If you're going to a party and you're going to be drinking all night, maybe beer would be better because you get drunk slower over time. But then there's a thing about cruising. Once you start to get tipsy, start to get drunk, then you stop drinking. You drink water. And you kind of maintain that balance. Also, freezing liquor. Liquor does not freeze. So you can put it in the freezer and it goes down smooth. That's about all I know about alcohol. Here's a tip. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That's why I picked a job. I like reading books. I picked a job where I just sit there all day. It gives me time to read all of these books, play video games, and other things. If I wanted to write a book, I got time to do that. There's not many jobs like that, though. But, like, if you... I don't know. If you like cleaning toilets. That's not a good example. If you like messing with like money and charts, and then you become a stockbroker, you're gonna like hate going to work because it's fun. I always wished I had like a cubicle desk job because I enjoy that kind of thing. It's not really work to me, but you get paid for doing stuff that you like doing. And nobody, you can try to be an influencer or like a video game tester, but that doesn't really work out. Everybody likes to try to do that. Here's a tip that I just got out of a book series I'm reading right now. It said, there are many paths, but any sage will tell you that they can all be reduced to one, which is improve yourself. Always be constantly improving yourself. That's why I read a lot. That's why I try to learn languages. Last year I was trying to get into that. I used to have this theory that if you're constantly, if you go from fat to skinny, and then you get fat again real fast, and you can try to get skinny your whole time. If you're constantly losing weight, working out, exercising, trying to make yourself better, and if you get to a peak physical condition and you just stay there, that's when you'll end up getting killed usually. So you have to get fat again and then start the process. Because if you're constantly improving, it don't seem like anybody ever dies while they're trying to improve themselves if they're in the process of getting stronger. But if you stay fat or you stay in peak, it's seems risky. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything true to that. Make the world your home, so you're home wherever you are. This is a really good tip. Whenever I get lost in the woods, when I'm hunting mushrooms or hunting or whatever I'm doing, I don't feel like I'm really lost because I'm always home. Because I'm on Earth. I'm an Earthling from the planet Earth. And as long as I'm on Earth, I'm home. Now, being in a place that's comfortable and a good temperature with a recliner and a TV, that's more like home. But as long as you feel I'm an American, I'm in America. Anywhere in America is my home. And that could be, you could limit it to America if you want to, or if you're from another country. Yeah. It's a good tip. Here's just a thing I wrote down that I want this on my gravestone because I feel like a lot of people think that I'm weird because I'm different than everybody else. The quote, "Not all who wander are lost." Sometimes you can just roam around. You could travel the world. You could just go places for no reason. There's no law that says you have to stay in a certain place and earn a certain amount of money and get married and have 2.5 kids and have a house. You don't have to do any of that. You could just live out of a van if you want to. You can be homeless, if you can be happy being homeless. There's a guy I just saw on YouTube yesterday. He's a hobo that rides trains like you would see in cartoons from the 60s and stuff. But he's like got enough money to get a smartphone and he's making videos. And he just does that. Like, who cares? There's no rules to any of this. It's just, life doesn't have rules. We're already at 15 minutes and I'm halfway done. Here's one that's kind of hard to do. But if you can, when you make enemies, try to befriend them and turn your problems into opportunities. I've never been able to do this because I like to burn bridges, but I see it in a lot of books where somebody will have an enemy and they will dominate them, and then instead of killing them or whatever, they'll like lift them up and they'll become friends with them and they'll turn them to their advantage, and they'll like, that's pretty dope if you can do it. Never make an enemy for no pointless reason. Like, a lot of stuff is just like they had bad parents or they were like abused, and if you can like realize that and then like befriend somebody, you can maybe like be their therapist for a second and you're like, I don't know. Oh, I need to teach you fucking weak points. Where's my knife? I got this. This is gonna be my fake knife. If you have to fight, this is from Ender's Game. Don't fight, but if you have to fight, end that fight and all future fights. That means kill them. You will go to jail, but don't let somebody kill you if it's down to you or them. You can always apologize later. What's that thing? It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Anyway, if you gotta fight somebody, right here, that's where you want to cut them. I think the camera's reversed. Maybe back here. Yeah, here. Actually, it is right here. So the left side of your body, your heart pumps your blood. It goes out your left arm, then it goes down your left leg, and it goes down your right leg and your right arm. It comes back in over here. So your vena cava, largest vein, is over here. Your carotid is over here. A lot of times in the movies, they'll give them the smile, like here. This is your throat bone. You're not going to cut anything doing this. This is like, you could even give somebody a whatchamacallit, when you poke into their esophagus and you run a tube down there if they're like choking. Whatever that's called. But if you want to cut somebody, right there in the carotid. Then you got your pressure points, like one right here under your bicep. There's a big vein or a big artery. Makes you go left hand first, left hand, left leg, and you got behind your thigh. There's the femoral artery. You want to cut long ways, not across the street, down the street, because it'll open up and it'll be like the fastest way to bleed somebody out. You can also use that as pressure point if you have to do first aid. You can hold it, put a tourniquet on it. If somebody's bleeding out. Learn this in Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts has got some good tips. That's why you always like check your pulse right there too, and here. Anyway, you can also do the palm strike to the nose. Push their nose back into their brain. That knocks people out pretty fast. You also, if you have to shoot somebody, right there in the back of the neck, where your medulla oblongata is the bottom of your brain. That's like the apple. That's what they call that. That's like a kill shot. If you shoot somebody in the head, there's like plenty of people that have been shot in the head and like didn't kill them because it's just like wasn't an important part of the brain for some reason. Unless it's like a hollow point and it splatters and gets all the brain, and you're probably good shape. Zombies, any part of the brain's gonna work. You can just knife them. Don't waste too much time on video games unless the experience is novel. Like you're jumping out of a plane, like you're learning how to parachute, stuff that you've never done before. It's like a good experience, or with a bunch of your friends. Because there are a lot of video games right now are really shitty. I don't even know if you like video games, but if you do, like I spent 10, 15 years on World of Warcraft and a bunch of dumb shit, like these massive MMORPGs. I got a little bit of YouTube fame from it, but it's not really worth. Like, I could have been doing so much more in my life. But then again, I don't really regret it because I had fun times with my friends. But a lot of these games you'll get sucked into, and it'll just like waste so much time. I don't know. Especially if you're like in China. Don't go to these lands and sit there and die because you didn't eat anything. You forgot to drink water. Read all the books you can. I wish I'd started reading more younger, because now I've had like all these books I'm trying to read. I'm trying to read like 100, 120 books a year, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. If I had started sooner, I could be reading way more books I got on my list that I want to read. You'll never read everything, even if you read like constantly your whole life. So you got to pick the best things, do the best things first. That's true about a lot of stuff too. If there's a movie coming out or a TV show that you really want to see, and you've got other things that you kind of think you should watch first, watch the best thing first, because you never know. You could die tomorrow. Yeah. Everybody, once you realize that you could just die anytime, then it's like your priorities get rearranged real quick. Also, you should listen to a lot of podcasts, because people are just like having conversations and talking, and you'll learn a lot of stuff just by that. People telling stories. I think the whole point of life is to listen to other people's stories. Plus, listening to stories saves you the time of having to learn your own lessons from your own mistakes. So if you're hearing a story about somebody that almost got killed because they did XYZ, you don't have to do XYZ because you know it's too dangerous. Like, you've already learned that lesson. You don't have to like lose your arm because you got it trapped in a rock going through that slot canyon where that guy for 128 hours had to cut his own arm off because you watched the movie or you like read the book. So it's like so much time saving and like just so much better. Another tip: you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. Time is money, but you don't have. There's not an infinite amount of time. You only have so much of it, but you can always make more money. Especially if you're like looking to buy stuff. Like, I like to buy cheap, generic crap from Walmart for most things like food, toiletries. But if you really want to, if it's something that's going to last you for a long time, like your blankets or a microwave or furniture or something, you can splurge on that and like buy high quality, because you're going to have it for, I mean, there's stuff that I've had 20, 30 years that I've moved, taken from house to house when I moved. So that kind of stuff, I don't know if you want to get like 1200 thread count Egyptian cotton sheets, but like get some quality stuff. Don't just get something you're going to be replacing every year. I was just thinking like about shoes. I heard like poor people, they will spend like $30, $40 on a pair of shoes, and those shoes will last them like a year or two, and they have to replace them. So they end up, over the lifetime, they may spend like thousands of dollars on shoes, where a rich person will maybe spend $200 on a pair of shoes that don't fall apart, and they'll last them for years. So the world's kind of like biased against poor people. Rich people get stuff for free too. They go to restaurants if they're like a celebrity, and they'll just give them free food. They'll just give them free everything just to like promote it, like free games, free movie tickets, sporting tickets, whatever. It's just bullshit. The world is bullshit. Tip 4. I wanted to talk about land being valuable too, because land is the only thing that they're not making any more of until we get off the planet and we start colonizing the moon or Mars. They're not making any more new land. So if there was like some undiscovered country out there, then you'd want to invest in the land that's next to the ocean, because that's where everybody likes to build houses, and it's the most expensive land for some reason, even though tidal waves and hurricanes will destroy it. People are stupid. Passive income. I just discovered about this. There are types of ways to have passive income where you don't have to pay taxes on it. Like if you have a rental property and you rent out a house. There's also, I don't know how this would work, but somebody said if you have enough credit to get a mortgage, right? It's better to buy a rental house first and rent it to somebody else and then charge them more rent than the house payment is. So you're actually making more money. You're making the house payment with their rent payment, and you're getting extra. So you got another income stream already coming in. So now you can use that for your own house payment, but then you'd have to get another loan. What bank is going to give you 2 house loans if you already got one out? I mean, you'd have to have crazy good credit. So I feel like this is a tip just for rich people, so probably doesn't work for people unless you already have a lot of money. Also, don't eat your paycheck. Don't go like spending $15 a meal because like fast food is easier than making stuff at home. Go buy your groceries for like $100-$200 and then like make your own food at home. It's like way cheaper in the long run if you do the math on it. It's ridiculously better. So a lot of people like they live paycheck to paycheck. That's not the way to do it. You want to like get you a good buffer. When I left the house, when I was living with my mom and dad, I saved up about $3,000, and then I went out and I got an apartment. And I've always had like at least like $3,000, pretty much, just for like emergencies. I didn't waste time on health insurance either because I didn't drink at the time, wasn't like doing anything dangerous, didn't have any like chicks to give me STDs. Like there was nothing really that could make me sick because I'm fat. I can just absorb diseases or whatever. So I don't know how much money I would have wasted right now. The thing about insurance is it's just bad. It's like you're gambling on something bad happening. So it's lose-lose. I like win-win situations. If I'm betting on something bad happening, I don't get paid unless something bad happens. And if something bad does happen and I get paid, something still bad happened. So it's bad either way. I'd rather just like take a chance. If something bad happens, and I've got some money saved up, then I'll take care of it. If nothing bad happens, then it's win. There's a way to win that way. It's like game theory. Oh, here's a good tip. Always keep emergency stuff in your car. Tire jack, spare tire, battery cables, winter coat in the wintertime. Keep a spare key in your car or in your house somewhere hidden around where you can get into your house if you get locked out. Get a dash cam if you can afford it. And I always have like some stuff like nail clippers or like floss or ear Q-tips. I keep in my lunchbox when it works. It's good to always have stuff like that. That's all part of the old be prepared Boy Scout motto that I learned a long time ago. And also with the dash cam, never talk to cops. Biggest tip I can give you, never talk to the police. Don't give them your name. Don't tell them where you're coming from, where you're going. Don't give them like if you've been drinking. Don't do any stupid sobriety checks. Don't get out and take any like field sobriety tests. None of that stuff. It's never going to benefit you. A lawyer will always tell you never talk to the cops. It can always hurt you, but it can never help you. They're just trying to get you to say something that will incriminate yourself. And if you refuse a alcohol test, they have to take you downtown, and they got to blood test you. And by the time you get there, you're less drunk. Also, never give them permission to search you, or your house, or your vehicle, or anything, unless they have a search warrant, not a arrest warrant. If you have somebody that's a friend that's got a warrant out, they have to have a search warrant. And even if they search you and you don't give them permission, it's inadmissible in court now. So it's like they're wasting their time. So, never help them out, and never let them search you, and never do any sobriety tests. There's no reason to. Never loan people money, especially your friends. It's a better bet to pick up a hitchhiker than to loan people money, because people that ask for money are not the kind of people that's going to pay you back. I had a guy that I wanted to kill for years because he owed me like $100. You don't want a guy that wants to kill you either. Here's one. Decide if you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond. Because you surround yourself with idiots in small towns unless you dominate them. Otherwise, they're controlled by bullies and crooks. So, I'm from a small town. A lot of the small towns around here. The sheriff of the small town is always like the popular kid at high school. And he gets all his little buddies to be deputies. And none of them know anything about being a police officer. And they just kind of run the town. And they're corrupt as hell, and they're all like fucking all these women that they shouldn't be doing, and they're all like stealing marijuana from drug busts, and they're all like doing meth and all kinds of shit. But if you become like a big deal and you move into a place that's kind of like a small population, then you can be a big fish in a little pond. So if you can if you have a way to like dominate these small town idiots, and kind of be a big deal in your town, it's probably a good idea to like get into local government if you can do that. I feel like a lot of people that are in local government are just all like in there by nepotism, and they're getting paid for stupid reasons. But if you want to be in like a New York City or LA or something like that, there's going to be way more people that are as smart as you are, or as talented as you are, or as good looking as you are, whatever the case may be. So you're not going to get as far. It's like probably less likely that you're going to like make it big. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Life's all about curating things that you like, throwing away things that you don't like, separating the wheat from the chaff. You know how they used to harvest wheat and they would crumble up the seeds and they would throw it up in the air and then the chaff would blow away and the seeds would land? That's what it's all about. Keep the good, throw away the bad. What's the thing about, I think there's this quote about evolution or science or something like that. If something works, copy it. If it doesn't work, exploit it. Something like that. That's a pretty good quote. But that's all my tips that I could think of over the weekend. I'm sure I'm full of way more wisdom than this, but that's the best I could come up with so far. So, that's 32 minutes. That's all the wisdom I have. A half an hour's worth of gold nuggets.